And these are segmented ornaments. The 8-pointed star is the center of the ornament, and the resin's poured around it.
Show it to the camera, please.
And the resin is poured around these.
That help?
And you come up with something like this to be turned. Now to get there, the first thing you have to do is make the diamonds. The diamonds make up the 8-pointed star. These have to be cut pretty well and accurately. Now, or you're not going to get to 360. So I'm going to show you how I do that. And we're going to do that via a video. But I use 1/2-inch stock. The reason for that, if you put 8 of them together, it gives me a 2.5-inch star, which is the right size for these 9-ounce ice cream cups. So let's go to
Is the ice cream cup, where did you get those?
I buy them from Amazon.
Okay.
And incidentally, the black ones release better than the tan ones, so I use the tan ones for mixing and filling and all that kind of good stuff. And when I pour into the black ones, because getting them out, if you don't use that, you're going to have paper all over the darn thing. So why the black ones work, I don't know, but they do. In making the ornaments, the first thing you're going to do is make the diamond. This is the diamond. The objective is to have all 4 sides of this the same. And the first thing you do is you cut the 45-degree on the bottom of the piece that you make the diamonds from. I'm going to take this out so we can see a little bit better. Once you make that 45-degree cut, that is what you're going to measure. Now, what happens is you also put that measurement on the top of that piece of wood. That is nice. You'd normally scribe them. This one I tried to put a pencil mark on it so you could see it a little better. But the idea is, if this length of this slope and this are the same, and you're going to cut to this line on a 45-degree angle, then that line will be the same as well. And when you're cutting these 45s with that blade tilted that way, if you try to hold that piece of wood by hand, good luck to you. Not going to happen. You need to clamp it down and clamp it severely. These are homemade clamps that came off a pipe clamp. However you want to make clamps, who cares? You could put T-slaps, T-rails in here and make them that way. This is I just use screw bottoms. I just got a whole bunch of screw slots in here, but I do keep it clamped securely. Now, once you get this set and you have this line in line with your blade, if that cut you make, you'll have this side, and the new cut the same, and the 4th side's going to be the same just by default. So it all depends on how well you set up. If you got your angle properly, the distance set properly, piece of cake. So you're going to make these into 2-inch length pieces that will make this. It takes 8 of them to get there. They should be pretty close to 22.5 degrees if you did it right. I see this one's not quite right, but if you do this correctly, you're going to be pretty close to 22.5 on these 4 surfaces. Close enough to do what you need to do. Okay, this is a handy little device. Once you get it set for the proper cut, then you make that cut and then butt over against it. But if there's a secondary feature for it, I can also run up and down that edge to make sure that I'm parallel to the blade. That I do need. If this gets off a little bit, it throws this off. So it has to be parallel. Also, the thickness of your wood has to be consistent. The length of that cut, that 45-degree cut, if it's thicker, it's going to be longer. So you need, this is half-inch stuff, which I use because I like the 2.5-inch size. If you use bigger, you're going to have a bigger star. If you use smaller, you'll have a smaller star. Or you can also go to a 6-pointed star, which means that you would set your blade to a 30-degree angle rather than a 45. So there are various ways to do these things.
Ooh,
All right. Any kind of measuring device you want to use, this is one that was given to me by our heavy-duty friend over there, Mr. Christopher, at one of our picnic things. So, and I do use it. It comes in handy from time to time.
Do you have a way of telling exactly that you're 22.5 degrees?
I put a protractor on it.
Protractor.
Yeah, which I do have a couple of them.
Wherever it's hidden.
I tell you what, though, when you look at them, when you look at the diamonds, if you look down that diamond, you're looking at a blue end there. But if you can see that it's off, it's off. I'll guarantee that. If you can't see that it's off, it's probably close enough. And that looks pretty. This one looks pretty good. Occasionally, when you're setting it up this distance from the saw blade, if you miss a little bit, you might want to make an adjustment. And if it's far enough off, you've just lost one piece. But you can make the adjustment so that you can go on. When I cut through, sometimes I'll only cut part way through to see where I am.
They don't waste a whole piece of wood.
So you don't waste a whole piece of wood. Well, since we've got this set up,
I notice you have an electronic one sitting back here.
yeah, that's the way when I set this up, I'll turn it on, put it on the tabletop, and I set it to 0. It's got a 0 button on it. After I set it to 0, then I can put it on. Now I'll raise that blade up so that I'm not resting on a tooth. Right now it's at 45.2, so I'm resting on a tooth. But if I raise that blade up enough, I'll be resting on the blade, not on the tooth. But you want your blade at 45 degrees to the tabletop. So these are quite helpful for that. It helps you just with the accuracy of it. Shall I make a cut? Just cut this piece off? All right.
Sure.
This is pretty well set up. This is an old Grizzly. It's a 3 horsepower, 3-belt thing. It's an old timer. This thing's over 30 years old. This is table size, but it's still cutting.
The other thing is, you notice it just falls free of the blade compared to trying to do it against the fence or something like that.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
No.
They go flying by you sometimes.
Yep.
But again, now, because I have the blade down And I put the blade down so that I can see better where the line is. And it leaves a little piece here I have to nip off with a knife. But again, you can take a look. That's pretty much a diamond. Then we go on from there.
Done.
You have 8 of them for each star that you make. I glue up all 16 surfaces all at the same time, put them together, and put a couple of rubber bands over them, and let them solidify. After they've hardened, because you've got the points, you can see where the center is. I drill a pilot hole. After drilling the pilot hole, I will find the center of the bottom of my cup, and there's a screw in it. I screw.
Show it to the camera.
I screw the 8-pointed star to the cup, because if you don't, when you pour the resin in, it'll float right up. It won't stay at the bottom, it will float. Oh, let's do some mixing, and we're going to pour these and get them into the pressure pot. We could pass these around if you want while we're doing this.
What is that stuff you're mixing up?
This is resin. This is super clear. This is a tabletop resin.
Show it to the camera, please.
So the tabletop resin is only supposed to be for a 1/4 inch. I guess I've made a couple of hundred of these ornaments using the tabletop, simply because if you use deep pour resin, it's about triple the price. This is $109 for the 2 gallons. It's about $300 for the deep pour stuff. As long as this works, I'm not paying for deep pour. This stuff works quite nicely at about 70, 75 degrees. You get it at 65, you can hardly get it out of the jug, because it is fairly thick and heavy. Now let's run good old warm weather. This is doing quite fine.
Is it a 1-to-1 ratio?
It is a 1-to-1 ratio, and I have made a line on the inside of this cup. I don't know if you can see that or not, to pour to.
Turn it 90 degrees toward me. Oh, there it is, okay. At the top.
Yes. You need to mix it carefully. That's the first one. This little device I'm using came out of the chem lab in my dad's chem lab probably 70 years ago. I got an oven just like it.
Still works, huh?
You know what? Very handy to use for all kinds of things. Every now and then I have to take it down and take a chisel and cut off all the resin, but
I would hate to see what you'd do if you had an ice cream shop.
forget it. All right, that's one. This is the hardener. And I've got to pour it to that line. And the more exact I am, the better I like it. Not quite. Still not good. All right.
the tolerance on the two pores?
Pardon?
What's the tolerance on the two chemicals?
You want to be 1-to-1.
Exactly?
Pretty much. Pretty much. And I'll tell you, when you mix these things up, I'm mixing this to try to get most of the resin off the bottom because it's so much thicker than the hardener. But when you mix these things, if you don't get this thoroughly mixed, it won't set. And I do mean, I usually mix this thing 3 or 4 minutes, at least, before I pour it off into the other cups and add color and all the other stuff to it.
Right, you use the drill?
I don't. You get too much air in it.
You know what I use is bought a whisk, a real small little whisk, the wire ones, and that's what I use, and it works pretty good.
Wire whip.
Yeah, and it works pretty good.
Shoot me a picture of that.
Yeah.
See what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Could you use a postal scale or a gram scale to measure that out instead?
Oh, if it's, some of them are use weight. The deep pours,
Yeah.
they're done by weight, so you have to weigh things.
But these are basically the same weight.
Yeah, these are basically, this is 1-to-1
So
works.
you
And
could do it that way.
Like I say,
Say
I've
you-
done a couple hundred of them this way.
You didn't want to fill up the whole cup, just a little bit. How do you get both cups equal?
I've got little teeny cups at home, and I'll pour in both of them. If I want
Answer
just a
the
small
question.
amount. I've done enough of these things, I can tell you pretty much what it takes to fill those two. Yeah.
How long before that hardens up?
It starts to harden in about 70 minutes or whatever. I'll leave it in the pot overnight. When we put them in the pot here, they're going to stay overnight. So,
Consider pot speeds up hardening then, right?
yeah, it's hardening in the pot.
Oh.
And
Well, what if you didn't use it with the pot?
you're going to have
We're going to talk about that.
air bubbles. And they do leave holes. The air bubbles do.
This was done without the pressure pot, and what I used was a heat gun, and you could see the bubbles coming up on the top. The problem was it was only about that thick, and it didn't penetrate, the heat didn't penetrate to the bottom, so you're going to see voids in this one compared to what happens in a pressure pot. There's very little voids when you put them in the pressure pot. He does it overnight, so it really.
Yeah. Incidentally, you can make these, if you wanted to use a 6-point star, you'd set your table saw at 30 degrees. And you can make a 6-pointed star. Well, I made some of a 6-pointed star and used 5/8 inch material to get the size right. Well, trouble of it is, for some reason or another, when you got the 6-pointed star with the 30-degree one, almost every damn one of those would have an air bubble in them. It would get trapped in that hole, that crack in back there. Even in the pressure pot, I had trouble with it. So there's something about that 6-pointed star that doesn't like it.
Did you ever try using a vacuum chamber after you pour it and then put it in the pressure pot?
No, but I've heard others that have tried it and
Yeah.
it created foam.
Yeah, well, it depends on what epoxy you use too. Yeah. The resin.
Probably.
Yeah.
I have tried a polyurethane epoxy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little yellowish and it's not as hard.
Right. Yeah, I don't like it either.
I don't like it either.
Yeah.
Don't like it a
I
bit.
like it.
It's
No.
matter of fact, I got 2 gallons of it sitting home. I don't know what I'm going to do with it.
Yeah. Why don't you tell them how much that stuff costs?
The urethane was like 160, 70 bucks.
Yeah.
And this is $109 though.
Yeah.
So this I can handle. If it was 300.
Yeah, and you can make a lot of ornaments with that too.
Yeah. And I have. I think this is my 5th or 6th 2-gallon batch.
Is that $109 for each bottle?
No, that's for both of them. All right.
That's actually 2 gallons.
I have 3 cups here because we're going to do a 3 color pour. Now I've done this enough that I know just about where to put my marks on these cups, so I'm going to pour to them.
You need this one, right?
I did to here.
Not gonna pass those around over here? They didn't make it all the way around.
We want to stay there.
All right. We're gonna need to clean up a little bit around here. I gotta drop the 2 on the tabletop, Chris.
I didn't see anything.
Now, the reds that you get from the mica powders, I have never found one of them that's a true red. They've got something else in them, and the mica powders, as far as I'm concerned, for reds, but Trans-Tint, a couple of drops of this works wonderfully. This gives you a better color. So I'm going to put, that was 3 drops. That's going to be a little deeper. And because I'm using Trans-Tint for that one, I'm going to use the blue in the same. So you can see. Okay. That's just a 2 drop. Doesn't take very much of this stuff at all. Now for the white that I'm using, we're doing red, white, and
Bob,
blue.
can you zoom in?
Going red, white, and blue. I use the Pearl X white. I've tried probably a half a dozen different whites. The Pearl X white is the one that I like the best. It's the better white. So we're going to use it. I'm going to have to get another bottle of this. I think Mark sells all this stuff. He's got Pearl X. He's got the tints. All that stuff is available here. And the Trans-Tint. I don't know if you can even read that one anymore. This one's got a label on it.
Close enough.
And icicles. If you see all the little sparkles in these ornaments that I've made,
Sold at your local Rockler store.
this is Eye Candy's icicles. I love this stuff. It does a great job of bringing highlights to it. Does wonderful things.
You'll see it in the ornaments,
Yeah.
like little tiny glitter. How about a knife?
I usually just peel it there. I've been into this before. All right, now I will put a good gob.
It's a heavier piece. So that's why your stasis
Ooh-wee.
Oh.
Pass
The
that.
flakes are flying.
Pass it around. Be careful if you open it.
Yeah, don't open it.
The flakes fly. Mixing time. Mix the color and the icicles. Now when you pour these things into your mold with the 8-pointed star,
You don't have to for me.
again,
Right.
you've got 8 channels that are 45 degrees on that 8-pointed
the
star.
Show the camera.
Yeah, you've got those 8 channels.
Bring it down.
And stuff, when you put it under a pressure pot, you've got some air bubbles in there, stuff moves. That's how you get all this other activity in here. Now the warmer the weather, the more it moves, it seems like. And it does make a difference whether you put blue on the bottom or red on the bottom. It seems to, one will be different than the other if you alter the pour. Now, if I had a paper towel, I'd continue to use this one.
Oh, Bob.
No one mind?
Against the wall.
Ah, I get it. Thank you. Some of them are mess on the table here, too.
It's a workbench.
Look at the epoxy top.
Each color.
There you go.
Yeah, that
Looks yummy.
Try that one too.
strawberry shortcake.
Blueberry.
Blueberry, okay.
First one strawberry, this is blueberry.
This is primarily the way I made this one.
Bob, it'll come off in about 2 weeks.
Thanks.
Okay, we've got the epoxy mixed 1-to-1. We've got the color in it. We've got icicles in it. And we're gonna pour. Now to demonstrate this, we'll probably have these here next month. I am going to do a red pour first here. Then I'm going to do the other one with the blue pour first,
Here, let's get you a clean one.
just to show you the difference.
You're gonna, oh, yuck.
Good idea to have paper towels handy.
Yeah, it is. I do not use rubber gloves or plastic gloves. I just don't like working with them. I can't feel anything the same way. I don't mess with them. All right, now the white goes in the middle of both equally. There's a little bit left. It's which one's the blue one? This has got the red.
Right.
I gotta keep.
Ray, what do you do with the extra resin you mixed up?
I usually pour them in another one. I'll have another.
Waste cup?
I'll have one, and I'll just pour it. That one is one of those. I just pour one, pour one, pour one. Now we're ready for the pressure pot. Now I haven't poured this one quite full yet. And the reason is when I pick it up and move it to the pressure pot, if I pour it to the rim, I'm gonna spill it. So we're gonna,
Put it up there. Pressure pot.
yeah,
Put this out.
I have no idea what's that about.
Lazy Susan.
Well, we can leave it in.
Should. Okay, I'm gonna put this up there so move some of that stuff. I'll talk to the video editor, he can edit this part out.
Or edit it in.
How am I doing?
You're doing fine.
Yep.
Put the brakes on. All right. Now I am going to put the first one in. And the second one. Now I will finish pouring this right to the rim. And I've got a good bit of excess there, but okey-doke. We need a top.
You know, as an FYI,
Yeah.
I've got a water softener. So when I empty the bags, I empty them, I cut the top off, the bottom off, and then I split it. So if you're gonna be working on a table that you don't wanna get resin on, put it down, tape them in place, and when you're all done, if you make a spillage, you just wrap it up and throw it in the garbage.
There's no pressure here.
Recycle.
I need a top.
Give me the top. Here.
Bob.
I'm gonna get the rock in there.
Bingo.
It's not even. Is it gonna even out? Give it a shot.
All right, Bob, I'll let her up again. This will sit overnight, and on the next meeting, we're going to put a waste piece on the bottom of this so that we can put it into a lathe. We will shape the outside, drill a 1/2-inch hole in it and hollow it, and then finish shaping the outside and sand and polish it.
Right. This is it.
This is an example of one. Bob came up with this idea of putting pine cones in it. We can pass this around. So you don't have to use the 8-pointed star. You can use just about anything you've thought about. Those are pine cones that have been cut into on a bandsaw. They're just buried randomly in the resin. And I did that today. I finished the outside surface and sand. The sanding and polishing was a little different than with the pine cones. It changed the texture of it, and they're not quite as bright as these. So
You
it's
can feel the pine cone too.
yeah, you can feel the pine cone, right? So it changed things a little bit. So
What if it goes on a Christmas tree? It's gonna look good up there.
Right? What's the
You
pressure
could
set
you could do nutshells,
What's
you
the
could do
pressure
seeds,
set
you
to?
could do
40.
right now. All the winter, there's still a lot of stuff left from last fall, laying underneath trees and in different places. Just look around the neighborhood; you can pick up a lot of things that could be in resin.
If anybody wants pine cones,
it's
I got
free.
20 pine trees on my
Right.
property.
Yeah,
So I
and
got
all different
10,000.
sizes.
And little ones?
I got all the different sizes.
The little ones.
I know, you want, yeah.
From Florida.
I want little ones.
Okay.
We've got a little bit of resin here, not much left, but
There is a lady in Israel who uses all kinds of stuff. She has drawers full of waste products from different types of nuts and
eggshells, kidney beans.
eggshells. Another one.
Deer antlers.
You want this one too?
Yeah, right.
From Rudolph.
It's junk.
Okay.
Look like insects up in here.
Oh, it's made a couple of big eyes.
Ray right now is pouring it back in to the waste cup,
That's right.
and it just puts layers on layers on layers. You could tilt the waste cup and have layers going across this way if you wanted to. But how much? 45 degrees, 40
This-
degrees?
This is one that's made up of those waste cups.
Ray, you know what I do is I use the little shot glass cups and I make wine stoppers out of it.
Ah.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick Weinstein would be great.
Oh, you just chunked
These
it.
are, this is when we do the same thing in the store. So when we've done a pour, we have some left, we'll just dump it into a cup.
Okay.
And then when we're unsupervised, we get to do weird stuff
That's a hell of
like
a
that.
shot glass.
That's a big shot.
Yeah,
Mark just heard you.
like that.
Ray, how important is it to have a fairly sturdy cup?
Really important, because if you use one that's not sturdy, it'll warp out of shape,
Yeah. If it doesn't split,
or if it doesn't split, but they will warp out of
then you
shape.
got a real mess.
I did.
All right, questions, guys?
Any questions?
Now, talking about the pine cones, you said it doesn't polish them up enough. Have you tried putting them in a vacuum chamber to suck all the air out of them? And then you know how they have that cactus?
Okay, so if there's no more questions,
But one more thing here. When you have one of these ornaments and you put them on Facebook, do you get any money for those things?
Yeah, you better do. I sell them for $75 a piece with the sand.
And that's when he doesn't take them up to the north side.
So whatever works.
okay. Thank you, Ray. Thank you very much.
Are we going to see the results of any of
But
this?
there is
Yeah, oh, yeah.
donuts back there.
The results will be. I will probably collect one of these at least from Christopher at the next board meeting, and I will put a waste block on it so it's ready to go on a lathe. Because
You see him hollow it out,
we'll shape the outside.
hopefully.
We'll
Next-
have
next
pieces
month.
of string.
There's actually alcohol. It's the wire whiskey was talking about.
Oh, that's cooking whisk.
Right.
Yeah, I know what
I thought you would, but I mean.
It's a cooking whisk.